Thank you, Annette. That was wonderful. We shall overcome an African American spiritual. Hello, and welcome to the online Sunday service of the Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, which we like to call HUF. And this is Journeying to the Promised Land. My name is Scarlett Trippsmith, and I will be your technical liaison for today. If this is your first time joining us, we are so happy you found us. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat to everyone. We welcome you. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, different backgrounds, but we hope that you can find comfort, connection, and love here. As you can see, you are muted. However, at the end of the service, we will be breaking out into breakout rooms where you'll be able to converse with your fellow congregants. We ask that if you feel comfortable, please keep your cameras turned on so that we can see all your beautiful faces. During these times when we cannot safely meet together, these online services are our way of connecting and continuing to keep the mission of our congregation alive in our own world. Today, we have Amy Day taking our joys, sorrows, and celebrations, so if you feel called, please send them to Amy Day today. We're so glad you're here, joining us and engaging with the work through embracing diversity and empowering the connections. Because of this, we acknowledge that and honor the land that which we live on as a traditional home of the Wiyot people. We are committed to fighting for the worth and dignity of every person in and outside our community. We want to remind ourselves that we must put our words and our principles into action for justice and the common good. So let's wake up, not just from the Sunday morning exhaustion, but from the wish for a few more drowsy minutes in bed. Let's wake up to this world we live in, to its beauty and wonder, and also its tragedy and pain. We must make up to this reality that not all in our world have what we do. However, much or little that is. We must wake up to the idea that our wholeness, our lives, and only as complete as the lives of those around us and of those who are inextricably tied into the great web of mutuality. And of this we are a part. So we must stay woke. In the words of our friends and colleagues involved in the Black Lives Matter, working together for racial justice in our country. Let's wake up, let's stay awake, and let's stay woke. So now in this time, in this place, let's worship together. Together we pledge action and transcend boundaries and barriers, be they racial, political, economic, social, or religious. We pledge to make our tomorrows become our todays. And with that, we welcome you and thank you for sharing your presence with us today. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Karen Harris, our fabulous guest speaker.
Thank you so much, Scarlett. Who needs a sermon? That was awesome. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I'm so grateful to be here with you. As we step into the sanctuary of our time together, let's prepare to really fully enter the sanctuary of beloved community, where we can rest for a little while in a place of safety and sanity, where we can nurture our mutually held intention for the healing of the world. The quote today for the chalice lighting is from Martin Luther King's essay, Nonviolence, the Only Road to Freedom. And the chalice that we're lighting is the chalice that you all gave to me when I first became your minister 15 years ago. Oh my gosh. Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls, as well as a quantitative change in our lives. There's no easy way to create a world where men and women can live together, where each has his own job and house, and where all children receive as much education as their minds can absorb. But if such a world is to be created, it will be done by rejecting the racism, materialism, and violence that has characterized Western civilization, and especially by working toward a world of brotherhood, cooperation, and peace. And now we will recite the fellowship's aspiration together. Scarlett will bring the screen up with the words. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now Amy will give us share with us a story for all ages.
Good morning, everyone. It's really, really an honor to be with you all here, and an honor to have Karen with us. So thank you all for joining us this morning. I am currently serving as the engagement coordinator here at HUF. And so this is the portion of our service where we invite you to, typically, right, if we were meeting in person, we would invite all of the children to come and sit down, a little crisscross applesauce style, and hear a story that is just a larger reflection upon the service and the message that we want to share with you today. And so seeing as many of our younger ones are kind of zoomed out by this time of the week, and we may not have too many actual children present, we invite you to take this in with the heart and openness of a child, and just be available to what the story wants to share with you today. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen here, and hopefully... All right. So this is called A Place to Land. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Speech That Inspired a Nation by Barry Wittenstein, illustrated by Jerry Pinkney. I'm going to just move this up here a little so I can make sure I can see everything. There we go. Martin Luther King Jr. was once asked if the hardest part of preaching was knowing where to begin. No, he said, the hardest part is knowing where to end. It's terrible to be circling up there without a place to land. But on August 27th, the night before the 1963 March on Washington, the strong and steady voice of the civil rights movement wasn't sure what to say or how to say it. So Martin did what great men do. He asked for guidance. Not from above, at least not at first. In the lobby of the Willard Hotel where Abraham Lincoln once stood, a meeting of the minds took place. You have to preach, said Reverend Ralph Abernathy. Most of the folks coming tomorrow are coming to hear you preach. Wyatt T. Walker agreed, but added, don't use the lines about I have a dream. You have used it too many times already. Bayard Rustin, who organized the march, wanted to hear about jobs, jobs, and more jobs, not dreams or scripture. Clarence Jones, one of Martin's speechwriters, yes, even Martin had speechwriters, suggested a marvelous metaphor, a fresh metaphor, one never heard before, a bad check. It meant the time had come for America to make good on her promise of equality and pay up, for her citizens of color had grown weary, frustrated, and angry for justice long overdue. Reverend Walter Fauntroy agreed. Whatever you do, he said, keep that in there. For 2 hours, while these learned men raised their voices and pointed their fingers, Martin remained still. Part of Martin's greatness, he knew the importance of listening. It grew late. With a long night of writing still to come, Martin stood and excused himself. I am going upstairs to my room now to counsel with my Lord, he said. I will see you all tomorrow. His advisors fell silent, stunned, unsure if Martin would use any of their ideas in his speech the next day. Until tomorrow, then, they mumbled, and retreated off to bed. Upstairs, alone in his suite, surrounded by rough drafts and scribbled notes on yellow legal pads, Martin saw Rosa, Fannie Lou, Emmett, Medgar, the children of Birmingham, and so many others, their faces forever seared into his memory. Heroes all, chased by snarling police dogs, knocked off their feet by high-pressure water jets, arrested, beaten, shot, and hung, shocked and poked by cattle prods, their homes, schools, and churches burned and bombed. Midnight. Writing, rewriting, rephrasing, rehearsing the lines out loud to an audience of 4 walls, changing the pacing, stretching the vowels, dividing words into syllables to create inner rhymes and alliterations. It was like poetry, said Andrew Young, the soft-spoken pastor who counseled Martin throughout the night. Words crossed out 3-4 times, searching for the perfect meaning and rhythm. 4 a.m. The handwritten speech finished, but not finished. Martin, exhausted, surrendered to sleep. While at the same time, up in Harlem in New York City, on 125th Street, in Chicago and Philadelphia, Cleveland and Memphis, crowds cheered friends and relatives climbing aboard chartered buses and trains, on foot and on planes, singing, "We shall overcome." 8 a.m. Hoping for a peaceful day, the shining city on the Potomac awoke to armed soldiers patrolling Constitution Avenue as if preparing for war against an invading army. Noon. Women in flowing white dresses, gentlemen in pressed white shirts and snazzy fedoras, carrying signs of protest, carrying signs of hope, walked past the reflecting pool, watching their reflections silhouetted against the bluest of pearl blue skies. 2:30 p.m., Martin kept refining, painting with a preacher's fine brush, a light shade of wisdom here, a darker shade of frustration there, the darkest shade of for whites only everywhere. Approaching 3:30 p.m., introduced as the moral leader of our nation, Martin stood at the podium ready to lead his people into the promised land. He removed the folded white sheet of paper from the pocket of his black suit, the speech typed and finished, but never finished, and placed it flat onto the lectern. Under the watchful marble eyes of the 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, Martin's rich baritone, God's trombone, rang out across the ages, gathering the glorious images of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, and wrapping them around the writings of Langston Hughes, the Bible, and spirituals he had learned as a child. Adding a sentence for emphasis, replacing a word for clarity, change is made in the moment to match the mood of the moment. The speech was good. The crowd applauded where it should, but Martin wanted more. He paused. Even he couldn't say why, but others knew. Tell them about the dream, Martin. Mahalia Jackson, the queen of gospel, Martin's divine muse, who inspired Martin as Martin inspired her, heard what was missing, the passion of a Sunday morning sermon. Again, she shouted, "Tell them about the dream, Martin, tell them about the dream." The Baptist preacher, son, grandson, and great-grandson of Baptist preachers, carefully moved the script off to the side. Martin was done circling. The lecture was over. He was going to church, his place to land, and taking a congregation of 250,000 along for the ride. Four words, spoken many times in Chicago, Detroit, Birmingham, and Albany, Georgia, but never as emotional as on this day. Never intended to be heard on this day, not even written down for this day, not even once. I have a dream. Words he risked his life for and spent time in jail for, to convince Black America and white America that walking arm in arm was the only way to save America. Martin's voice soared as sweetly as Mahalia's. From my country 'tis of thee to let freedom ring, concluding with the mighty crescendo, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Through the crowd and from sea to shining sea, tears rolled down like a mighty stream, because the vision of a world where love triumphs over hate grabs hold of the heart and won't let go. This was the picture Martin painted. This was his gift, further proof of his greatness. But now was not the time for congratulations. There was one more stop to make. 4 p.m., whisked away to the White House, a house built by those enslaved, to meet the 35th president, JFK, who had been slow to embrace the civil rights movement and tried to convince its leaders to cancel the march, now greeted those same men into the Oval Office, extending a handshake to all, but saving a special welcome for Martin. I have a dream. For some in the room, Kennedy's warm smile and handshake were bittersweet. 8 p.m. Returning to the Willard Hotel, where less than 24 hours earlier, voices were raised and fingers were pointed, the wise men gathered once again, this time to celebrate and to reflect upon the day that was. Leader, you swept today, Reverend Abernathy told Martin. You preached today, John Lewis added. You was smoking, Clarence Joan had told Martin moments after the speech. The words were so hot they was just burning off the page. They all knew more battles lay ahead. Angry late-night meetings in hotel lobbies, frantic phone calls, tears and blood to be shed, fighting every inch to cross a bridge to make Martin's dream come true. And those battles continue to be fought. But that night brought optimism and laughter, for they all agreed. Martin stepped up to the lectern and stepped down on the other side of history. Thank you for indulging me in that slightly longer story. May that be inspiring to you. So we have arrived at the next portion of our service, where you are invited to send to me in the chat, if you like, anything that's on your heart right now, anything that you are pausing to celebrate, a sorrow, a challenge. And our ritual, if you're unfamiliar, is that we take a small bowl of water and a stone to signify each care, joy, concern, and we offer it into the collective pool. The symbolism being that what is on your heart, what you carry with you, matters. It carries weight, it carries substance, and we drop it into the pool as a way to show that it leaves a ripple. And we want to hold you and one another in whatever's on your hearts and in your lives today. So I'll just go ahead and read from the chat here. We have a few here. Thank you for sharing. So we have from Montana, a sorrow. We said goodbye to our 15-year-old dog Molly on Friday. She was deeply loved and will be greatly missed. So thank you, Jack Libby in Montana, for sharing that with us, and we wish you well in this time. From Debbie, sharing the joy that my friend Betty came home from the hospital today. Yay. Thank you, Debbie. So we have, just from Catherine Jensen to everyone, blessed to live on the traditional land of the, and pardon me if I mispronounce this, Ohlone people. Thank you. And thank you for that recognition. We have some greetings here, so be sure to check out the chat. We have many people visiting us, maybe for the first time. From Kate McLean, deep gratitude to Scott Sattler for sharing his precious life with us. Sending condolences to Scott's family for their loss. This is an announcement. In fact, I'll let this, and I won't read this aloud just so we can let people kind of find this, but Kim Trippsmith, Scarlett's mom, has an announcement in the chat if you all want to check that out. We'll just let this time be to share what's on our hearts. From Joanne Huffman, so glad to see Joanne Thomas, a joy there. From Azima Lila Forrest, grieving and wanting to honor the life and service of Scott Sattler. Seems to be a very, very common refrain today, and I know that that is what a portion of our service shall be dedicated to. From Salim, I celebrate the life of Dr. Aslan Scott Sattler. A sorrow from Justin Rehnquist, the 8th anniversary of my mother's death, and the joy of being here today. So thank you for sharing those with us today. From Ginger, Ginger Casso, Richard is having a great deal of pain. Please hold him tight. Thank you for letting us know, Ginger. And I just want to insert into here, if at any point it's laid upon your heart to reach out to any member of the fellowship, this is a really wonderful time just to take stock of what's happening, so that you can reach out to members of this community as well and hold them individually in their joys and sorrows as well. Also celebrating the life of Scott Sattler, whom I called Lionheart. From Scott Sattler's family, honoring Scott and celebrating our new granddaughter, Lucia. Welcome. Also from Canther Jensen, Sophia is celebrating Scott and his family as family friends and lights in the world. So finally, if that's all I see in the chat, we pause and we offer up this final stone into the collective pool, just to speak for all of the things that are on our hearts and minds that remain unsaid. And so we invite you now just to pause and take a breath and to be in yourself and with one another here in a moment of silence.
So those of us who were working to prepare this service today, and it was very much a collective effort, we also really felt the pain of Scott's passing and also the incredible joy and liberation, especially from the Sufi perspective of Scott's passing. And so we prepared a short video to celebrate his life. Just a tiny, there will be more coming. There will be more memorial services for Scott, I'm sure, from the Sufi community, and I would imagine from his family as well. So we're celebrating his life and also helping to introduce a little bit of his magic to those of us who may not have had the privilege and joy of knowing him and his beautiful family. So we'll play that now. The music in the video is from one of Scott's many recordings of Sufi chants sung by him and the other 3 members of the Inayati choir.
May my life be for
Dr. Scott Sattler, or Aslan as he was known in the Sufi community, was born in 1946, raised in rural Ohio, and moved to California to attend medical school in 1968. After his medical internship, he came to Humboldt County, where he and his wife Kathy, a nurse, ran a medical clinic on the Hoopa Indian Reservation. For many years, he and Kathy had a medical practice in Eureka, while raising their two daughters, Amelia and Shanti. These past few years, Scott and Kathy made many visits to be with their daughters, their husbands, and 4 grandchildren. Scott was a long-term Sufi practitioner in the tradition of Inayat Khan, holding the title of Murshid, meaning spiritual guide, the highest level of teacher in the lineage. Scott taught and sang around the world and was especially loved for his work directing Sufi choirs, both here and in Europe. He was one of the leaders of the local dances of universal peace, which have been meeting here at the fellowship for many years. It is impossible to convey the heart-opening power of Scott's luminous presence. His students and companions on the spiritual path have shared many stories of life-changing healings and transformation. He will be so missed. So, my friends, it's been a long time, and we've all been in our separate places. And I'm so grateful to be here in Sanctuary with all of you here today. And before we launch into the sermon, I just want to thank a few people. Above all, I want to thank Kathy Sattler and Amelia and Shanti for their open-hearted love and their courage and their incredible movement through this powerful time together. Thank you for being a beacon of love for me and for all of us. It is so appreciated. I also want to thank Leslie Troxel. I could go into details, but let's just say on many different levels, this sermon would not be happening without Leslie's incredible support, and I'm incredibly grateful. And then finally, anyone who's ever worked with me knows that I work very spontaneously and inspirationally in the moment. And so I can be very difficult to work with. So I'm sending out a very special shout out to Scarlett and to Amy for their unbelievable receptivity and patience as we threw together a service of so many disparate and very important and very timely elements. And I'm just really grateful that I got to work with such beautiful, open-hearted people. Thank you. So being here together in this moment, there are so many powerful forces swirling around us. And because it's such a powerful time, I want to take just a minute to acknowledge and to recognize the king tides we are swimming in. And that pun was meant in honor of Scott Sattler. There had to be a pun, king tides. We're at the end of a disastrous presidency, but we're standing on the cusp, on the edge of a new era. And we have the hope of renewal, of sanity, integrity, and dignity. We're also at an extraordinary juncture in the time of the pandemic, with surge upon surge in our state, our nation, and our world, with so many lives claimed and upended, and at the same time, the arrival of hope. And so both politically and in our shared life of our collective health, we stand at the apex of turmoil on the edge of a time of hope. Just as Moses and the Hebrew people did as they arrived at the promised land, just as with Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement at the time of his amazing mountaintop speech, many, many will not step forward with us into the time of hope. In addition to these incredibly strong collective forces, we have the loss of Scott Sattler. For many of us, and very strongly for me personally, this is a time of deep mourning and also incredible joy as we celebrate the movement forward of our beloved friend and spiritual guide, Aslan, or Scott, a man whose life of song and service radiated love and healing to everyone fortunate enough, blessed enough to know him. And all of this is unfolding at the very moment in the year when we pause to honor one of the most courageous leaders who ever lived, a man who rose up to meet enormous challenges, a man who can really be a beacon for us at this moment. He lived in a time in many ways like this time now, a time of conflict, division, systemic inequality, and cultural upheaval. A prophet confirmed by the arc of history as the greatest of American heroes. A phenomenal leader who accomplished lifetimes of achievement before being struck down at the age of 39, and whose life's work echoes so powerfully in this year's upwelling of strong, clear, passionate protest against racial injustice and police brutality. Even one of these things would be enough for a deep pause and a deep reflection. These are very strong times, my friends. And I want to suggest and encourage us all, it's a time to be present and clear. We all have a deep responsibility to steady ourselves, to plant our feet deeply in the ground, but to raise our hearts and minds high towards the best and the highest. It's time to pay attention, not only to the chaos going on all around us. Yes, it's important to pay attention, to know what's happening, but we also need to look deep within our own beings and our own hearts to listen for the voice of guidance within. There's a clip of a film made only a month and a half ago where Scott was singing with his community, and he sings a chant in which they ask and pray for guidance from within. It's a beautiful clip. We'll see if we can post it for you somehow so that you can take the inspiration from Scott to go deep within, to find the place in your own heart where guidance arises from. The other thing we need to do right now, we need to remember to give ourselves a daily dose of inspiration. Maybe an hourly dose of inspiration would be wiser at this time, especially when we are spending each time taking in the news. Recently, I watched an extraordinary movie that's exactly that, an incredible dose of powerful hope and inspiration. Maybe you've all already seen it. If not, I hope you take the time to watch it. It's an HBO documentary called We Are the Dream. This documentary tells the story of Oakland's annual Martin Luther King Oratorical Fest. Every year, the city of Oakland invites its children to prepare their poetry, speeches, and creative spoken art to compete with each other in honor of Martin Luther King. The children and their offerings are incredibly diverse: Black, white, brown, Asian, tiny pre-K kids all the way up to teens, reciting poetry, speeches, alone and in groups, using their minds, their voices, and their bodies to channel what they've learned from the life of Martin Luther King. The whole point being to teach themselves, inspire themselves and each other, to talk the talk, walk the walk, and learn how to live the dream of equality, dignity, and freedom for all. Please, my friends, do yourself a favor, give your heart a gift. Watch this film. As a way of honoring Dr. King for his birthday, as a way of inoculating your heart, early vaccine against depression and fear, and above all, as a way to uplift yourself, to be better able to walk the walk of justice and love in our daily lives. There's so much that's inspiring about this film, but what I most want to lift up about it this morning is what it teaches us about the power of commitment to actually learning from our teachers, not just setting them up on a pedestal and going on unchanged, but actually working with their messages, bringing them deeply into our minds, our hearts, and our bodies, so that we can begin to truly live our blessed teachers' teachings in the world. In the beginning of the film, we see the children of Oakland learning Black history from their teachers and slowly learning and practicing how to express what they've learned with their bodies, their voices, and in their own words. They turn these powerful lessons into poetry and song to enact the messages of equality and justice as they memorize and then ultimately perform their pieces for others. And here's the real gem. By the time they go up on the stage for the competition, they walk up to the podium lit up as people of power. Tiny little children, 5, 6 years old, beautiful young girls, 9, 10, 11, strong, clear teenagers. They walk to the podium, lit up, people of power, and then they light up every heart in the room. This is what we are all called to. This is who we need to become. We need to be the dream. This film is an intimate window into the power of living lineage, to what happens when we don't just pay lip service, when we don't hide behind our admiration, when we don't hide behind political correctness, but we actually let a teacher come and live within our heart. In the year of the oratorical fest that the film documents, which is clearly pre-pandemic, everybody's hugging everybody else. I'm so jealous. I want to hug these kids. The winner was a 10-year-old young man named Gregory Payton, the grandson of a Baptist minister. And this young man performs King's last speech, "I've been to the mountaintop." Originally, we were going to play that very speech to you today. But when I found this clip of young Gregory Payton living the legacy of Martin Luther King, it was so clear that's the message. King's powerful words were, "I have seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." Those prophetic words were spoken the night before he was shot and killed. We're going to play the clip, and I want to just point out, for those of you who know King's speech as well, there are also excerpts included from his I Have a Dream speech, one of his I Have a Dream speeches, as well as quotes from the Bible that were dear to his heart. Take it away, Scarlett.
Good afternoon. My name is Gregory Payton. I will be reciting a tribute to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., compiled by Zarita Sharp. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me besides the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Down in Alabama with its vicious racist, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind, like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountaintop. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. All right. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Sure, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you.
Ooh. Wow, right? This precious film, I've seen it 10 times. It's still, my heart races. It opens me up. This precious film drives home the powerful and most important message. I have to say, my voice sounds so dull in the moment. I just want to celebrate that way of speaking. I want to honor that way of speaking that comes down through the ancestral lineage of the African people. It's their gift to all of us, and may we receive it open-heartedly. We, like the amazing kids of Oakland, can and should do the hard work to make these lessons our own, to do the work to carry the light of justice and love in our lives so that we can be the dream we've been waiting for. Because the truth is, we can be the dream we've been waiting for, or we can stand by and watch the nightmare unfold on the evening news. How will we each make the messages of Dr. King our own? How will we make the messages of all our precious, wise, illumined teachers, our own. For myself, and here I speak humbly and really just to make myself vulnerable, as I truly believe is good for all of us at this moment, this profound moment in our history as a country. To make myself humble, to say to you that for myself, the work really feels like I need to examine my own being for the stains of racism, to be alert to the defensiveness of white fragility, the part of me that wants to say, but I'm not a racist, just because I grew up in a family that affirmed the equality of all, and just because I believe in the truth of racial justice, doesn't mean that I'm free of racism. What happens to the heart and mind of a child whose culture enmeshes them in a story of entitlement and privilege? This is the other side of the coin of racism. In this country, it's a stain on every heart. It affects all of us differently. Some of us grew up to be the victims of prejudice, and some, like me, were taught by the culture all around us that we're entitled to the more that we have, that we are entitled to the world as a stage for our travel, for our wealth making, for our fun, our own personal pleasure. This education to entitlement and superiority has become a cancer in our collective life, because equality doesn't mean just lifting up the oppressed. Equality also means stepping down from the pedestal of entitlement and superiority. There's another aspect to this that I think we as liberals of this time and age need to really carefully contemplate. I've seen within my own self that the need to be right, and most especially the need to be in the right, the need to be morally and ethically superior, the need to sit in the seat of judgment of others, this need to be right can be yet another vestige of the privilege of racism, yet another weapon in the divisive conflict raging today. And we sometimes pick up and use this weapon to denigrate and dehumanize our fellow Americans, our fellow human beings. And this is a new form of the legacy of racism, where we base our claim to superiority not on the color of our skin, but on the pre-existing position of privilege, or our political affiliation, or our political correctness. And then we can sometimes use this superiority to judge and demean others, instead of disagreeing respectfully and according all of our brothers and sisters their rightful human dignity. These are difficult times, and this is a difficult task. How do we see all of the actors on the national stage right now as our brothers and sisters, communally stained by the poison of racism in our culture? How can we see all of the actors on our national stage as stained by this powerful stain? To even see this reality, let alone to begin to step across the chasm and the divide and the judgment and the alienation, the division, the violence, to even see the reality of our shared equality and brotherhood, which is the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. How to see that reality and begin to fix it requires a tremendous amount of work and commitment. But if we are to accomplish this dream, those of us who were born to privilege must also rise to this task. We must rise to our duty to truly live our equality with all of our beloved human community. Since today's sermon is really about the connection between these powerful exemplars as our teachers and us as students, I'd like to invite you to contemplate a direct connection, a direct conversation with Dr. King, with Scott Sattler, with whoever your beloved teachers, mentors, and guides are. And in honor of that, I'll share with you my promise to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This will be my work for the coming year. Until your next birthday, I will diligently examine myself for these vestiges of privilege that block me from a truly humble equality with my fellow human beings. And I thank you, Dr. King, from the heart of my being, for the life that you led, the example you gave, and the immeasurable blessing you poured out on this land, and that your life and your legacy continue to pour like a flood of baptism on the young people of this land. And I thank you, Aslan Scott Sattler, for your precious heart, soaked in the love of God. It was not so much what you did in the world, although you did a lot and you did it well. But even more, it was the extraordinary way in which you did it, the way you tirelessly, tenderly, and with exquisite grace lit up the world around you with the power of your love. If the arc of the world is going to continue to bend toward love and justice, it's going to have to be our turn now. If we truly love our teachers, if we truly value and honor who they were and what they did, we have to catch those sparks and hold them and fan them, warm our hands and our hearts around them and coax them to grow and to burn, to light the way not only for ourselves, but for all the ones who are coming. For that spark to have reached us, it must never have been dropped. Please, God, don't let us be the ones who drop it. Truly, there's no man or woman standing in our way, no one who can prevent us from showing up awake and aware and truly compassionate, right here in the middle of this very life. The only thing keeping us from doing that is the stain of suffering that has not yet been washed away from our vulnerable hearts. So let's all give our hearts a spiritual bath. Let's find what uplifts and inspires us so that we can lean in one more day to do the sacred work of carrying our lives and our world forward with dignity and with grace, with respect and love for our fellow human beings. One day, 1 hour, 1 minute, one encounter at a time, looking into each pair of eyes and knowing here lives a child of God, knowing that within myself there lives a child of God, and that here all around us is the promised land, the land given to us to tend and cherish so that we might receive its bounteous gifts. May we all bend our hearts and minds toward justice. May we all bend our hearts and minds toward love. May we all learn to walk together as brothers and sisters as we live here together in the promised land. Thank you, everyone.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will. We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know we're there. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. We know we're there. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. We'll know we're there. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 We'll know we're there.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's a really, really beautiful, visceral reminder of what a gift a spiritual teacher brings. It's just the kind, tender invitation to step fully into our calling in this world and the work that we are called to. So thank you. And thank you again, all of you, for being here. The next song that Annette has chosen to share with us, softly and tenderly, is from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And it was chosen specifically because it was played at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral. And if you're unfamiliar with the words, it just refers to, again, that invitation, that soft and tender calling that we all feel to step into our work, step into offer our gifts, our time, our resources, our light to the work of beloved community and building that in this world. So this is a time when we invite you to reflect upon what is yours to offer. What can you give? We here at the Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, it is our mission to help empower each and every one of us to do the work of beloved community, to nurture one another and this world, and to step fully into embracing the ideals and the messages that our beloved teachers have shared with us. So if you feel called to contribute in any way to the work of this fellowship, we invite you to do so now. Thank you. Thank you, Annette. So as we leave this time, as we extinguish our chalice, I invite this to be a final reflection and an invitation to us all. These words were chosen again by Karen Harris, and they are from Taj James, who's a Black father, poet, and the founder and senior advisor at the Movement Strategy Center in Oakland, California. And he writes, "The time has come for all of us to follow the children, for they know the way. Follow the young people, for they have the power. The time has come to ask and to listen. No, really to listen. What do you need? What do you dream? What is your superpower? And what can we do to support you to bring forth your gifts together? The time has come to tell them and show them you are loved. We have got your back, and you don't have to do it alone. The time has come to follow the children, for they know the way. And so now we invite you in this final ritual as we exit this space, and there will be time in our virtual coffee hour afterwards. I believe Scarlett is going to put together a separate breakout room if anyone wants to go and specifically be with Karen rather than just our normal fun chit chat. There'll be 2 spaces you can go to after our service is done. But now I invite you just to hold hands as we have become accustomed to during these virtual gatherings across your screen in this imaginal space where we imagine our bodies and spirits and our work collectively reaching forth and combining with one another. This is another offering, a legacy from Scott Sattler. This is a familiar chant to many of us, this "Go now in peace." We sing it when we're in person to our children, when they're leaving the sanctuary and moving off into their own space. And it's a blessing that we sing with our own words that just means we hope you are held. We hope you feel the spirit of truth, the spirit of justice, the spirit of love, the spirit of divinity as you understand it in your being and all around you. And for Scott, that was the Spirit of God. And so we invite you to take in these words, take in the nourishment of this singing and sing along with us. And let yourself take in that spirit as you understand it. So go now in peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now.
Shalom, salam alaikum, blessed be, ashe, aho. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Martin Luther King. Thank you, all of you, for being with us here today and informing our path as we leave this space. Please stick around if you can to join us for a little bit of time together. Thank you.
Hi everyone, just real quick for the coffee hour breakout rooms. If you are able to assign yourselves into them, if you go down to the bottom of your screen, breakout room should be an option, and if not, if you go to the 3 little dots that say more, if you go to the 3 little dots that say more, there should be a form that says breakout rooms. If that still isn't working, please feel free to just put up a hand in the participations or send me a chat and I'll put you in with Karen Harris. So thank you so much for being with us today, Karen. It was truly a pleasure. So thank you.
Thanks everyone for your patience as Scarlett's shuffling us all off to our desired spaces. I know this is quite a bit of button pushing for her, so thanks Scarlett for getting us all where we want to go.
When will we know we're in it?
Yes, I see Cena.
When will we know we're in it?
That's a good question. I think Karen is in the other virtual space from what I could see. And so I think little by little, Scarlett is getting us off to, I think she's having to do it manually one by one here. So thanks everyone for your patience. I think you'll know when you see Karen. Or maybe we should all just stick around with Karen, who knows? But she's putting us in there. Thanks, Scarlett.
Is my friend BT still here? He may have, there he is, yeah. Okay. Good.
I wish I could be more useful here, Scarlett. I'm just gonna stay back and let you work your magic. Is there anyone else who, just a little show of hands, if you were wanting to go off to the other section of our virtual space here to just to have a chat with Karen?
All right. Anybody else? I think.
Debbie, you had your hand up, right? I saw that.
Cool.
And then it looks like Scott Sattler's family as well. Is there anyone else? Just if you could give a little show of hands. I know it takes a minute just to get everyone where they'd like to go. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. It's good to see you.
You feel inspired?
Inspired to keep knitting.
That was a wonderful service, so inspiring.
Yes, it really was. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know my mom's trying to say something here, but can't really hear her. In the chat, she put earlier, we're taking donations for masks or soaps or just money we're sending to the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana, just because they have to go to the town where people aren't wearing masks and they just don't have the proper gear. So we're putting together donations for that. If you want to reach out to me, I can be your point person for that. Yeah, if you are a sewer and feel like, hey, I can make 10 masks to donate to a reservation that I want to do the work. If you feel inspired, feel free to email me or message me. All my information's up on our website. So, yeah.
Where would we deliver them?
If you let me know, if you're interested, I will give you an address that you'll be able to send them to, or you can just drop them off to me personally or at the fellowship and I can pick them up.
Everybody looks really wide awake now. I've got to figure out what's going on with us.
Yeah, it was such a wonderful service, so inspiring.
Yeah, yeah. Oh.
Good job, everybody.
Did everybody get the name of the film, the documentary?
Yeah.
And if you still
I did not,
what was it?
Leslie.
We Are the Dream.
We Are
the Dream.
HBO documentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
It might be on Hulu.
Yeah, she said it was on HBO.
I don't have that, but okay.
No, I don't have a TV, so.
I think that HBO stuff, well, I know it's available online if you want to watch it online.
Uh-huh.
And they may have a free starter period, and you could just go on for that, watch the thing, and then cancel it. That way you wouldn't have to pay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I want to introduce the handsome dude in the red, my college roommate from Chapel Hill in 1964, 66.
God, you went to college when I did, Skip?
Could be, unless I was playing hooky. Yeah, I majored in parties and civil rights demonstrations.
Yeah, right.
Call that recreation now.
Anyway, BT is joining us from Reidsville, North Carolina.
Really? Wow. Where? I don't see him.
I think his name is
It says
iPad.
iPad.
His name is iPad.
iPad. Why don't you put
Yeah.
BT's iPad?
He must be a Rastafarian. So Scott and Susan.
I
and
thought that
BT
looked like Scott and Susan.
And BT and Ellen and I and Laird and Maggie all went rafting down the Trinity one time together.
We did.
Yeah. And yeah, Ellen was a little perturbed that when she had agreed to go on a rafting trip, she had not pictured any white water.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't take her to the Grand Canyon then.
Yeah.
We've never been rafting since.
Well, our guide said this was the first boat she had not lost that day. And Susan, was that you that was across from me and we held hands?
I might have been, probably, yeah.
We held hands. They said, "Oh, everybody paddle." And I reached out and grabbed the girl across from me, and I was thinking it might have been you. We held hands and we held that boat together, I'm sure.